Alright guys, I'm going to build another shelter today, and we're going to need to look at a couple things before we build this shelter. And the first thing is the 5 W's. You got to think of Widowmakers, water, wind, wood, and wigglies. Okay, so check the area for all them things. Right behind me is a whole pile of downed wood. We've got pine and oaks and hickories and hemlocks all over here, and tulip poplar. So we're good on wood. But we also need to think about water running downhill. Are we in a channel, or are we above all those channels? So you need to look for little channels running down these hills, because the water is going to take that path of least resistance, carve out a little V shape, and you need to make sure you're away from anything like that. The sun is over here setting in the west, and it's going to fall this way. Okay, so that tells me that south is right here at this angle. So what that means is I won't build my shelter so the door is right here facing south, because then when the sun rises in the morning, I'm going to be nice and toasty in the morning, because it's going to get cold and there will be frost. So with all that stuff in mind now, what this shelter is going to be is what I call a sapling shelter. You find an area with a bunch of small bendable saplings like so. You notice there's a big tree here, but it worked out with this one. And all you do is get cordage, and you're going to take this sapling and you're going to pull it down, okay, to the ground, and you're going to tie it to the other side. Okay, now cordage, I went and found my good old friend tulip poplar, got a whole bunch of cordage off this, and now I'm going to take and just process this down into wheat cordage. I'm not going to weave it into anything special because I don't need to. It's strong enough as is if I use enough of it, and I'm just going to tie this sapling shelter together and then move on to the next step, which is getting that shelter insulated and waterproof. So now that we got that figured out, you can see here I've got a cedar tree I can bend over, I've got another sapling over here, and I'm just going to bend them down, clear all this out, and then I'm going to go from there to finish the shelter up. So I'm going to go ahead and trim all this up here just by taking little bits off that aren't necessary. And then we have some that are going to be on the ground in our way that we don't need. Okay, and we just want to clear all that out, and we can use that, so pile it off the side and we'll use it in a minute. And then we just want to clean off this here, get into this stuff that's going to be poking us in the middle of the night. You don't want to take it off the sides, because that's going to add to your shelter. Just on the part that's going to be down towards your body. And anything else that's on the side, just leave it, because it's actually going to help you. Okay, and once we have that like that, we're pretty much clean. And we check this area here, all these are pretty much leaves, and I say we just leave those because the top layer is dry, and that's going to help keep us dry off the ground. We need to add more, but that'll help us. There's no reason to take it off. So now we want to actually start tying our shelter together. Okay? And now the point of this, if you remember in the root shelter, we could keep the heat to about 50 degrees, which is not, you know, life-threatening. It's cold, and it can be life-threatening, but you should be okay. But it's not comfortable. This one, we're going to play it a little bit more safe, okay? We're going to bring this down, and we're going to conceal ourselves in a smaller area, okay? And trap that heat around our body in a small little air-insulated type section right here, okay? So it's not going to be, you know, where we can sprawl out like we do in our beds at home, but it's going to be where we can be comfortable warm-wise tonight. So now I want to bring this sapling right over here, and I want to attach it to this tree. So I'm just going to take some of my tulip poplar, and I'm just going to tie simple knots, okay? Just a half hitch, and then we'll turn that into a square knot. Okay, and then we're going to come to our sapling here, and we're just going to wrap it around a couple times and add some tensile strength. And then we're going to go through one of those loops, the last one that we did, and we're just going to cinch it down into a loop like that. Alright, so now that we got that one secure, we need to come here and we need to pull these two. It's going to be a little different because that one had a bigger tree. But these two we can pull down in an X fashion, okay? And then we can tie them right in the middle. And then we can see anything that's going to be, interfering with our sleeping, so we can remove the rest of it then. So that's all I need to do with this, and then all this cedar, the top of this cedar here, and the branches from over here help me finish my shelter, okay? So that's the benefit of the sapling shelter. You just got to find an area where you got enough little saplings to do something. It's not going to be perfect like in a book where you have all of them right in a row. You can stick them in the ground, but that's not as easy as you think. So we just need to finish doing this, and I'm just going to wrap the rest of these behind me until I got enough to sleep under. A couple pointers to look at when you're making a structure like this. Make sure the structure is long enough to fit your body and maybe even a little extra room so you don't end up cooking your feet on the fire. Another pointer is sometimes the saplings themselves are flexible at the tips, and you can tie the tip of the sapling to the base of the other sapling. Other than that, use what cordage you have in the center and at the two tips of the saplings for extra structural support. Alright, here's our basic structure. You can see we got an arch here in the front. Okay. We got another arch. See, we just wrapped a bunch of that bark around there and a bunch down here. We just tie each end. You can wrap the ends of the saplings down here like I did there. I did that with this here. Okay. And that just adds extra support. And you have to make sure it's long enough for your body, and you can see I took the rest of that tulip poplar and just kind of draped it here, and that's going to help cover my back. And then I just cut little spikes and slab them in, and that'll be the very back of the shelter, and that's just going to help me clear or add some insulation like leaves here. Okay, there's lots of leaves here in the winter time, so we should be able to gather those. Alright, with a bunch of little saplings like so, okay, they should be all around you if you have the saplings to tie off. So now all we got to do is just start weaving this stuff here in and out. Okay, that's all we got to do, just like that. We're just going to stick them in so they stay above our roof line. Okay. That's all we're doing. So I'm just going to take each one of these saplings and I'm going to weave it under and over and under and over until I'm done. All we're doing here is creating surface area with saplings or vines or anything we can find. This just helps us so we can stack our leaves all the way around our shelter. Okay guys, we look here and we can see we got like a big webbing. Okay, I just weaved them in and out this way. And when you're done, you can weave a couple this way, and that just adds some structural strength. You just basically want all the gaps filled, okay? Now if I crawl in here, I notice that I fit, okay? And I look up and I just got trees weaved all up around me, okay? And that's the start for a good sapling shelter. So now we need to get some of these right here. Those are beech tree branches, okay? You can tell because of those tan leaves. I showed that in a video. And those add a lot of strength or a lot of cover for your roof. So we're gonna go get a pile of those now. Okay guys, the shelter's pretty set up as far as the frame goes. You can see that we got this thing covered with some beech tree now, which really fills in everything. And now we just need to insulate this thing with leaves or bark or anything that we can find to add a roof over our heads. Something that someone might bring is just like some type of cotton bandana, or I have a schmuck here. Even a shirt would work, a jacket. You just lay that thing out. You need to collect a lot of leaves and firewood. This is the way to do it, okay? You just pile them in. And then you can collect a lot more leaves a lot faster. You just pile them in there. Okay, then we just wrap her up like so and dump a layer on. Make note that in winter, urushiol and poison ivy is still present in vines and stems. Protect your hands if possible if you are allergic. I am slightly allergic and did experience minor irritation. In a short amount of time, we have a shelter that will keep us out of the elements. Okay, let's take a look inside. Okay, you notice how it's really dark? That's what you want. And what I've noticed, okay, I left one little section open right here. That right there is what'll get you. See how that's down towards the bottom in here? Okay, now what happens is the wind will blow and it'll come from underneath all this. So the key is get a bunch of insulation on the bottom. Okay, and then work your way up. Okay, any little dots like that right there, try to cover them. Okay, but right now I'm limited on time. It's 5 o'clock. It gets dark at 5:47 is sunset here. Okay, that means I have 47 minutes to get a fire going because I'm wet right now and I have one little layer on and it's cold. It's getting a lot colder. Okay, so I'm gonna have to put layers on, but I can't do that until I end up getting some way to dry off. So I need to dry off, I need to get fire, I need to get warm. Because if you get wet and you stay wet and layer up and keep sweating, and then it gets cold and you don't have fire, you have the chance of hypothermia, okay? And we don't want that. So we got the shelter. Shelter comes first before fire in this situation when you have little time, okay? Remember that. Okay, you can notice that I have that layer of leaves that was there from the beginning. What I'm going to do is, now that I don't have a lot of cedar and a lot of pine like I did in my root shelter, you know, there's pine, but they're all big evergreens up here, okay? I don't see any little. So I'm going to grab those beech trees and lay those down, and then I'm going to throw a bunch of leaves on top to insulate me from conduction, okay? That ground will just suck the heat right out of me because it's wet, okay? See? It's wet. And it's going to be cold tonight, okay? So I need to fix that. I'm going to insulate this real well down here so I sleep good and it's comfortable. Sleep is important. Okay, so I gathered this pile of wood to get me started, okay? Because the key is I want to get fire before night. I've got firewood all around me here, down trees. Alright, first thing I want to do is get the fire going. I'm going to need about 10 times more than this though, okay? You always want to grab about 10 times more than what you think is enough, because you will not make it through the night. Now, another tip. In the shelter, or the root shelter video I showed you that big logs last longer than small logs. If you can, break a big one off. You can see I just busted that one off, and it's a fairly large log. Another question that I had on a video was, how do you keep a fire going in the rain? You find big punky logs that are dry, okay? Even just a big hard log like an oak. Put that on top of your fire and it'll just sit there and smolder, and that log will shelter the rain and run it off this way. So put a couple big logs on your fire and it'll keep going for you so you can get fired the next day. Okay guys, what I got here, I went and made 4 stakes real quick, and I'm going to shove in the ground here a little distance from my shelter. Okay? All I'm going to do is just puncture them in the ground like so. And I want it about the width of my door. And then I'm going to put the next set fairly close, but right across from the first one I put in. And then the last one right here. And that's going to create a little wall that I can stack some wood in. Just any wood will work. I'm going to stack them in here, okay, and that'll give me a backstop to push that heat back into my shelter when I make my fire, because I'm going to need it tonight. A backstop is a crucial element to your shelter's warmth. You don't want to waste all the firewood that you gathered. You want to maximize its efficiency. And putting a backstop in, just simple logs and packing it with some mud, will add a lot of heat to your shelter. Alright, now we need to actually make our fire. Okay, we want to kick all the leaves from our shelter into our shelter, because we don't want to catch it on fire. We want to make sure we're enough distance from our shelter we don't burn it. Now, I recommend digging a small little hole just to help contain your ashes and to help keep from burning everything down while you're asleep, because that would make your survival situation even worse. So let's just take and dig a quick little hole right here. That'll help contain our fire where we want it. Because a lot of survival, guys, is about control. You need to control each and every situation, okay? Now I know that I'm limited on time, so I did a priority check. What do I need more than the other thing? Okay? And that's what it's about. Once you figure out what you need, you do that first. Okay? I needed shelter because it's going to get cold. I want to contain my body heat. Now, you can see, since we didn't have the root like we did in our root shelter, I had to make this backstop. But I can take this dirt that I'm getting and I can line it on that backstop to help reflect more heat. I can close up some of these holes, and I'm doing two things at once because I'm also containing my fire. I'm controlling where it goes. Okay? Just use a simple stick to just easily chop up that dirt, then use your hands and move it. Dirt's not going to hurt your hands, okay? Now I'm going to take and I'm going to line the bottom of this hole with a little bit of leaves here. And then I'm just going to take a couple dry pieces of wood I found and lay them down. Okay, and essentially I'm going to build my fire in this right here. A good thing about the firewood I collected is it's a lot of pine, so fat wood was not a problem to find. This piece here looked really good. Okay, you see how dark orange that is? That's beautiful. I'm just going to shave that outer bark off. Anyone with a lighter or a ferro rod would be set in this situation. Okay, we're just going to empty all that stuff out of there that's in there. We're going to begin shaving our pieces in. Being the most difficult yet crucial aspect of survival, in my opinion, fire is towards the top of skill sets to learn. In this case, it will help provide warmth, a way to cook food, a way to boil water, to dry off, and a huge psychological boost for me. I got fire, I got shelter, I'm going to be set for the night, okay? Because sometimes that's what it means in survival, is being set for the night. Now, I whipped this shelter up pretty quick for shelter, you know. In the books, you'll see it, or people who make them to show people like how shelters are made. They'll take all day and make a really good one, okay? You can see that this one's kind of does that and then goes down. It's not perfect, okay? It doesn't look perfect, but it doesn't need to look perfect. But I got a lot of leaves on there. Insulation, I just piled them on. I didn't care how it looked. I need to finish this daylight out collecting more wood. I need to make that pile 10 times bigger. I'm going to fill that whole area over there with good firewood that I can easily come out of my shelter and grab at night, okay? Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put one more log there like I did here, because see that smoke, how it's blowing towards me right now? That means that wind is coming west, is that way right there, okay? The sun's setting right there, so it's going to be hitting me kind of at an angle from the back and the side. Well, it's blowing this smoke a little bit this way, and I want to prevent that if I can. So I'm going to build one more backstop right there, and that'll help keep heat in, and it'll help keep the wind from hitting me and blowing ashes this way. Alright guys, I'm getting the rest of my firewood here, and I got some big tulip poplar. A big tree fell down, and I'm busting it up. Now, you don't want to kill yourself or get a mechanical injury by stomping on it or anything like that, and you don't want to waste all your calories breaking up big logs. So if you find a tree like this one here that's V-shaped, basically that creates you a vise that you can get into and you push and break these logs up. Okay, you can see I broke that with ease. Now I got a nice little log to throw on the fire. If you collect a bunch of this, it'll go a lot further than getting a bunch of small stuff. You just have to find ways to break wood up, say you don't have a hatchet or something that you can chop with. I extended my backstop over to here to touch this side of my shelter. Okay, now that's completely stopped the wind from blowing this that way, so that'll help keep more heat in here, and it'll keep the wind from hitting this and bouncing into my shelter. And it's real calm right here right now, okay, and it's real warm. This fire's just kicking heat in there. I can tell that it's already warming up in there, and now I'm drying off, and I probably should take my hat off because I'm sweating, and dry this out. Everything that's wet, you need to dry it out now before bed, okay? Because once it's dark, you're pretty much limited to where you're going to go. And when it comes to shelter and efficiency, It's always best to find something that's already made, okay? But sometimes it's not there. You might be in a new growth forest where all there is saplings. This here is an easy way to make a shelter. You just tie a couple saplings. They don't have to be perfect. Just tie them together. You can get cordage in the wild. You probably have cordage on you. My boots are laced with paracord, okay? You should always lace your boots with some type of strong cordage. Paracord, in my opinion, is the best thing to lace your boots with. So always, the more prepared you are, the easier it is. I did this with just a knife and some tulip poplar cordage. And I brought my fire starter and all that, Now this shelter location's great because that sun in the morning's going to rise and it's going to just hit right inside my shelter and warm me right up. And hopefully I'll keep my fire going all night. I'm going to keep you guys throughout the night. I forgot my thermometers, but I'll let you know if it's warm or not. You just have to take my word for it. It's going to be a lot warmer than our root shelter, I know that. It's sealed off really well. I patched the rest of it up. I got my bed good and thick with leaves so it's kind of springy, and that'll keep me up off the ground. And air is a great insulator, so if you make it springy by putting, say beech branches in there, it creates an air void, and air insulates quite well once it gets warmed up. So now I'm just going to kind of keep going at everything, keep collecting a little more wood, breaking it up, getting it ready so I don't have to do all that work in the night, and I can just get some rest, because sleep is very important, and that's why we build shelters. Don't just sit there and do nothing. Don't give up. Do something. Just always be doing something. Never just sit there, okay? So that's important. Always keep your mind occupied and make your situation better. I've learned the further north you go, the quieter it becomes at night in the wintertime. My times in the swamps of Florida came alive at night. I didn't feel quite as alone as I do in places like here and in Michigan. Here you can hear the trees creaking and maybe a little bit of a footstep in the night. That can put a heavy psychological burden on you if you don't keep yourself busy. So my recommendation is to find something to do, whether that be improving your shelter or just simply carving out a memorandum while you're in this situation in hopes that you're going to get out of it. Alright guys, well, I'm ready to hit the sack here, and you can see it's nice and cozy in here. I'm nice and confined. The airspace is small, which means it's going to insulate me well. I'm nice and toasty right now. I'm not cold at all. I'm just, that shamak I use to pick up leaves, I'm just using that as a little pillow to make me a little more comfortable. And other than that, that's about all I got, and that's what I'm doing. I took all my firewood, I piled it all to the left of my feet there, so then I can just reach out and grab it. One other tip, guys, for staying in a shelter like this, it's kind of hard to get in and out of them because they're so small. Like, here's my knee, there's the roof, okay? So, grab a little stick as a poker stick, okay, so you can work your fire in the middle of the night. And then like I did there, I put all that wood close so I can just kind of curl up in a U shape and reach out, grab it, pull it on. Okay, so that's just a little tip I'm going to leave you before I go to bed. I have a little poker stick so I don't have to, basically so I can be lazy in the middle of the night. So it's about 6 in the morning, and it started raining. I don't know if you guys can hear that rain hitting, but I'm staying nice and dry in here. Well guys, the rain and wind finally let up. It got pretty windy last night. I could just hear the treetops blowing and a few leaves around me blowing, but other than that, I stayed pretty warm all night. I'd say this shelter did its job. It kept me warm, kept me out of the wind, and it kept me dry from the rain. And that's what shelters do, is they keep you from the elements. They keep you sheltered from the things that you don't want to have to sit out in. when I went outside and rain was hitting me, I mean, it was cold. You know, water will suck heat from your body 25 times faster than air. So it's important to have a shelter that's completely sealed off like this, and that's not too big where you can keep your body heat in it. The key is getting sleep. In cold situations, you will sleep less. It's just the way that it's going to be because you're not as comfortable. You might sleep 40 minutes, then wake up to a dying fire, and repeat the process the whole night. When that first bit of sun pops up over the horizon, it's always a welcoming feeling.